There you go. Okay. Okay. Technical problems. Anyway, thank you all for being here today. I had posted on Sunday that there wasn't going to be a class today because I thought that I would be going to Philadelphia with my parents to see my brother, but it turns out that it's going to be next Wednesday. So there will be no Torah study next Wednesday, the day after Simchat Torah. But we're on for today, and like I said, I appreciate you being here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So, the Torah portion this week is special for the Shabbat during the holiday of Sukkot. We are in the midst now of what's called Chol HaMoed, the weekdays of the festival. That's what Chol HaMoed means. So this is day number 1. Shabbat will be day number 4 of Chol HaMoed. And then Sunday is number 5, and that's also called Hoshana Rabbah. And then Sunday night begins a new holiday, Shmini Atzeret, Yizkor on Monday during services. And then Monday night and Tuesday, we end with a bang, Simchat Torah. So we actually read the last portion of the Torah on Tuesday morning, and then start all over again with the beginning of Breshit, also Tuesday morning as part of the service. So during the festival, there are always special sections from the Torah that are read each day of the festival that relate to the festival itself. On Passover, each of the intermediate days has a special reading because Passover is mentioned several times throughout the Torah. Sukkot is only mentioned in relation to the sacrifices that are offered each day of the holiday. So Shabbat, though, both of Passover and Sukkot have a special reading, and we're going to take a look at it today to see what is the connection between this section and the holiday of Sukkot and the holiday of Passover. So the section is in Eitz Chaim on page 538. In whatever edition of Chumash you have, you're looking for Exodus chapter 33, beginning with verse 12. So this is the third aliyah of Ki Tisa. So if you want to look for Ki Tisa in the table of contents, excuse me, you can find it that way, or just turn to Exodus 33, beginning with verse 12. The portion Ki Tisa, as we have studied together, is mainly about the golden calf. And Moses is supposed to come down after 40 days on being on the mountain. He delays a little bit coming down, and the people start worrying what's going on, and go to Aaron and say, make us a replacement for Moses. So he fashions a golden calf. People are worshiping around it. Moses comes down with the 10 Commandment tablets, sees what's going on, smashes the tablets, kills, with the help of the Levites, all those who were singing and dancing around the golden calf. And then Moses goes up the mountain and prays for God to forgive the people of Israel. And that's where this reading picks up. So we're gonna read it straightforward and then try to figure out what this has to do with the Shabbat during the holiday of Sukkot. Why are we reading this section about Moses asking for forgiveness and getting a second set of tablets as a replacement for the first? What does that have to do with the holiday of Sukkot? So again, 538, beginning with verse 12 there, what's listed as the third aliyah of Ki Tisa. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai, Moses said to God, Re'eh, ata omer elai, ha'al et ha'am hazeh, va'ata lo hodatani et asher tishlachi mi. So I'll translate this literally. See, you say to me, bring up this people, and you have not let me know, you did not let me know who would go with me. So let's see what the English translation does with this. See, you say to me, lead this people forward, but you have not made known to me whom you will send with me. All right. In other words, Moses is saying, I need some help leading the people. You told me to lead the people, but who you didn't say that I would have an assistant. Va'ata amarta yedaticha v'shem v'gam matzata chen be'enai. This is a little bit awkward phrasing here. Further, you have said, I have singled you out by name, and you have indeed gained my favor. So in other words, Moses is saying to God, yeah, you've dealt well with me, and now he's going on, va'ata, and now, imna matzati chen be'enecha, if it pleases you and I've found favor in your eyes, hodieni na et drachecha, let me know your way. Ve'eta acha, and I will know you. In other words, it's kind of hard, Moses is saying, to figure out what we're supposed to do here. You tell me, I think maybe what Moses is thinking here, within the context. You tell me to go up the mountain for 40 days and give me the 10 commandments. How could you let the people be worshiping a golden calf while I'm up here? Don't you know that I'm up here? How come you're not paying attention to what the people are doing down below? Why aren't you taking care of them while you're taking care of me up on the mountain? Now a whole mess has ensued. What's going on? So let's get things straight here. If you want me to lead the people, then you got to let me know what to do, because hodieni na drachecha, let me know your ways, so I don't make a mess of this. 3,000 people were just killed by the Levites singing and dancing in front of the golden calf. Is this what you want me to do? Let's start over and have a fresh start here, so that we can go on peacefully as we go into the land of Israel. So hodieni na drachecha, show me your ways, ve'eda acha, and I will know you. Now in 539, lama'an emtzachen be'enecha, so that I will find favor in your eyes. Ure'eh ki amcha hagoy hazeh, and know, see too, that this people is your people. Yeah, that this nation is your people. Vayomar, and he said, Panai yelechu v'hanichoti lach. I will go in the lead and will lighten your burden. So this is God talking. God says, literally translated, my face will go and I will leave you be. So it's translated here, I will go in the lead and will lighten your burden. So perhaps a poetic way of saying, okay, Moses, I hear you. I'll take care of you and relieve some burdens from you. Vayomer elav, and Moses said to him, Im ein panecha hochim, al ta'aleinu mizeh. If your face isn't going, don't bring us up. Or, unless you go in the lead, do not make us leave this place. Right? We need to know exactly what you want, and we need to know that you're in charge, God. So if you're not going to be leading, then leave us be. Uvameh yivada efo, and how will it be known, therefore, ki matzati chen be'enecha, that I have found favor in your eyes, ani va'amecha, me and your people. Halo belechtecha imanu, is it not for the fact that you're going with us, veniflenu ani va'amcha, and that I and your people have been distinguished, mikol ha'am asher al panei hadama, from all people who are on the face of the earth. So we want to know, or I want to know, Moses is saying to God, that how have we found favor? How have I found favor in your eyes? I need some proof that I have found favor. That there's a whole mess here at the foot of Mount Sinai because of the golden calf. We have to make things right again. How do I know, God, that things are right again? I need to know that that we are distinguished, that we have found favor in your eyes. So now verse 17. So this is all quite unusual. And before I go on, just a moment here to just comment to say that this is kind of chutzpahdik on Moses's part to talk this way to God. And they just started this whole relationship, right? It's Exodus chapter 33. The relationship started in chapter 3. So it's only 30 chapters, and in those 30 chapters, it's really just 4 months of work together. When that's what it seems like from the narrative. Moses meets God at the burning bush, goes down to Egypt, 10 plagues happen, and then the Exodus happens, the crossing of the sea, and then 2 months later they're at Mount Sinai. So it's a span of 3 to 4 months with incredible stuff going on God's part that Moses is facilitating with the people of Israel. Then they get to Mount Sinai and he spends another 40 days on the mountain, and then all heck breaks loose and they have to start over again. So Moses thought there was some kind of relationship, maybe Moses thought he knew exactly what God wanted and was able to read God's ways, and then the golden calf happened and he's lost. So now he needs to refine himself and also ensure that God is leading the way, because it was Moses's idea to kill the people at the golden calf. God was not involved in that. Moses did that. So perhaps Moses is saying, look, I can't do this. I need you to be in charge and lead the way. And I need to know that I have found favor in your eyes too. Okay, so 17. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Gam et hadavar hazeh, asher dibarta e'eseh, ki matzata chen be'enai, ve'eda'acha b'shem. God said to Moses, also this thing that you have just said, I will do, because you have found favor in my eyes, and I know you by name, and I have singled you out by name. So God is seeming to affirm what Moses is asking, and affirms that God has found Moses to be favorable in God's eyes. So now Moses is going to take advantage of this. So God says to Moses, I hear you, and you have found favor in my eyes. And so verse 18, Moses goes a step further. Vayomar, and he said, Har'eni na et kavodecha, show me your glory. Or, it's translated here, show me your presence. Okay, and God says, Vayomer, ani a'avir kol tuvi al panecha, v'karati v'shem Adonai lefanecha, v'chanoti et asher achon, v'richamti et asher arachem. And so God said, I will pass my goodness before you, and I will call out the name of God before you, and I will be gracious to whom I will be gracious, and will be merciful to whom I will be merciful. So Moses wants to see God's presence. God says, okay, I'll pass my goodness before you. So he doesn't answer with the same word. He doesn't say, I will pass my kivodi, right? Moses asks, Har'eni na et kivodecha, the last word of 18, and God doesn't say, A'avir kol kivodi al panecha. He says, kol tuvi, all my goodness before you. What does that mean? So it's one thing to try to understand what God's presence or glory passing before Moses. What is God's goodness being passed before Moses? It's a mystery. And so the commentary below suggests all my goodness. Well, first above the line, this refers to the compassionate attributes that God reveals in dealing with his creatures. So perhaps, but still, how do you pass attributes before somebody? So it's abstract and concrete. In other words, Moses wants to have God's presence pass before him. God is saying, according to the commentary, I'll pass my attributes before you. How do you pass before you grace, graciousness, compassion, benevolence, love? How do you pass those attributes before somebody? So it's a little bit complicated. But below the line, I will make all my goodness pass before you. We encounter the reality of God when we experience goodness in the world, from the gift of life itself to the discovery of the capacity to do good in our own souls, and the love and generosity of people around us whom God has inspired to do good. Okay, I buy that, but I don't think that explains what's happening right here on Mount Sinai. In other words, understanding God's goodness in the world, according to this commentary, that makes sense. Okay, when you see good things happening around us, like a beautiful day in nature outside today, wonderful Torah study that's taking place, we see the beauty of God in other people. That's God's goodness. I get that. But right here in this verse, Moses wants to see God's presence. So the answer that the commentary is suggesting is something that you realize over the course of time. You don't realize it necessarily in that second. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is, what's about to happen is God is going to pass God's presence before Moses. How is that? Like maybe by passing God's presence, Moses has like a flash, like his life is passing before him, and he understands all these things that could be happening in 20 years worth of time passing before him in that instant. So it's kind of I would imagine that the Zohar, the classic collection of mystical commentary to the Torah might have a field day with this section and trying to understand mystically what is going on here. Because again, Moses wants to see something physical of God's presence, and the answer that God gives is an abstract answer. And that in and of itself could be a way for us to try to make sense of something that is really difficult to make sense. In other words, when we try to have a relationship with God, it is us as a human being and God who is in another realm of the universe. So how can these two different realms, God's realm and the human realm, meet and connect? It's like apples and oranges coming together, two different senses of reality coming together. And then what is that like? And that Moses here is the only, so other people in the Bible have spoken with God, whatever that means. Was it actually God speaking, or is it some sense that after you wake up from it, you recognize that God has spoken to you? So that also could be a translation of something that happened in God's realm into human terms. So here, Moses wants something human to happen, and God, as reflected in the words, is doing the best God can to translate God's self for Moses. So Moses wants God's kavod. God is passing God's tov, God's goodness. So I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it's trying to understand the connection between the infinite realm of God and the finite realm of Moses that's coming together here in these sentences. And then it goes on to explain this, verse 20, Vayomer, God is saying, God said, Lo tuchal lirot et panai, you are not able to see my face. Ki lo yirani ha'adam b'chai, because a person cannot live by seeing me. Or if a person sees me, a person cannot live. So this also could be further reinforcing the idea of it's impossible for a human to enter God's realm and survive the experience. So there's a fascinating story in the Talmud of 4 rabbis who try to enter Pardes, which is a rabbinic term. Pardes literally means orchard, but Pardes in rabbinic terms, or especially in mystical terms, is God's realm. So 4 rabbis try to enter God's realm. Only one survives the experience whole. 3 others are either killed on the spot or disfigured or affected badly by the experience and aren't normal anymore. Only one, Rabbi Akiva, somehow survives the experience. So it's perhaps a rabbinic take on what's happening here between Moses and God. Nobody can see God and survive. So in other words, if we want to enter God's realm to then be able to see in a human way God, it's impossible. We wouldn't be able to survive the experience. So it has to be some other kind of mystical experience that is happening here, or that Moses wants to happen, and God is trying to make it happen in a way that Moses can survive the experience. He kind of picture the Charlton Heston, Cecil B. DeMille 10 Commandments movie. And remember what happened. I only know this because I've seen the movie so many times over the years. Charlton Heston looks different after the 10 Commandments experience. All right, so Cecil B. DeMille did that on purpose to try to reflect cinematically what happened to Moses in this experience on Mount Sinai. He goes up the mountain as he looked the whole movie, and then after the fireballs come at you at the screen, right, when the 10 Commandments, when God's writing the 10 Commandments onto the tablet of stone, then once Charlton Heston picks up the tablet, that his hair is out here, and there's a different aura about him. Okay, so that's Cecil B. DeMille's cinematic way of trying to reflect what's happening here with Moses seeing God's presence. Okay, that it's an experience that is physically transformative. Okay, so that's verse 20. 21, we're on page 540. Vayomer Adonai, God said, Hine makom iti v'nitzavta al hatzur. Here's a place next to me, near me, with me, and you stand on the rock. V'haya ba'avor kavodi, and when I pass my presence, now God uses the word kavod. Moses wants to see God's kavod. God answers, I'll pass my tov. And now God says, I'll pass my kavod. Okay, so he's back to using Moses's word. God said, I'll pass my kavod, and I'll put you in the crevice in the rock. V'sakoti chapi alecha, and I'll cover my palm. That's literally. Shield you with my hand until I pass by. Now, does God have a hand? How is God shielding Moses in this crevice, in this rock, until God's presence passes by? What is that? What is God's hand? That's also bizarre here too. I mean, we picture God throughout the Torah as having human form because it's easier for human beings to explain God in human terms. Okay, but here this mystical experience, which is an out-of-body kind of experience, entering God's realm, has a human component to it, in that God's hand is hovering over Moses to protect Moses while God is passing by. So, and then verse 23, Vahasiroti et kapi, then I'll take my hand away, V'ra'ita et acharai, and you'll see my back, Ufanai lo yera'u, and my face you will not see. Okay, so it's like God's putting God's hand over Moses' face like this, like playing peekaboo with Moses, but with God's hand, not with Moses' hand. And then until God walks far enough away, God removes God's hand, and then Moses can see God's back. So perhaps this is a mystical explanation in human terms of what exactly happened there behind this rock. All right, now I didn't think I was going to spend as much time on this as I did, but I realized as reading it that this is bizarre, and it still highlights the question of why we read this section on the Shabbat during the holiday of Sukkot. What does it have to do with Sukkot? Now, the simple answer to this is because the portion keeps going. Now, the 10 Commandments, the second tablets, are going to be written, chiseled by Moses with God's help. The first set was written by God and given to Moses. This set, this replacement set, is written by Moses and with God's help, the exact same words. And then a covenant is established between God and the people of Israel. And included in this covenant is, if we turn to page 543, beginning with verse 18, we'll understand simply why this whole section is written on the Shabbat during Passover and also during Sukkot. So the covenant contains, verse 18, 543, this is chapter 34, verse 18, Et Chag HaMatzot Tishmor, observe the holiday of Matzot, Shivat Yamim, Shivat Yamim Tochal Matzot Asher Tziviticha, 7 days you shall eat matzah, as I have commanded you, L'moed Chodesh Aviv, as a holiday during the month of Aviv, Ki b'Chodesh Aviv, because in the month of Aviv, Yatzata Mimitzrayim, you left Egypt. Kol Peter Rechem Li, every first issue of every firstborn belongs to me. B'chol miknecha tizachar Peter Shor Vaseh. From all your livestock that drop a male as firstling, whether cattle or sheep. Ufeter chamor tifdeh beseh, but the firstling of an ass you shall redeem with a sheep. V'imlo tifdeh v'arafto, and if you do not redeem it, you must break its neck. Kol b'chor banecha tifdeh, and you must redeem every firstborn among your sons. V'lo yera'u fanai rekam, none shall appear before me empty-handed. Observe Passover, all firstborn belong to me. Little logistical thing here about donkeys being redeemed by a sheep, and firstborn humans have to be redeemed also. And then 21, Sheshet Yamim Ta'avod, 6 days work, Ubayom Hashvi'i Tishbot, have Shabbat on the 7th day, Becharish Uvakatsir Tishbot. Even at plowing time and harvest time, you have to observe Shabbat. 22, Chag Shavuot Taselacha, make for yourselves or observe the holiday of Shavuot, Bikurei Katsir Chitim, the first fruits of the harvest of wheat. The Chag HaAsif, which is Sukkot, the harvest festival, Tekufat Hashana, at the turn of the year. Shalosh Pa'amim Bashana Yira'eh Kol Zechorcha et Penei Ha'adon Adonai Elohei Yisrael. 3 times a year, all of your males shall be seen in God's presence, the God of Israel. Ki orish goyim mipanecha, I'll eradicate other nations before you. Hirchavti kvulecha, I'll widen your borders, etc., etc. And so that little section that has Passover, Chag HaMatzot, Shavuot, and Chag HaAsif, Sukkot, is why this entire section is read during the Shabbat of Sukkot. But I think there has to be another reason. I'll talk more about this on Shabbat morning, but I think it reflects a particular theme of what happens. Maybe, let me say it this way. I think every time we celebrate a holiday, one thing we try to do on a holiday religiously is try to experience God's presence. And I think that is the religious quest. No matter what religion one observes, a point of being part of that religion is to get closer to God. And every religion has their way of doing it, or their ways of doing it. So Judaism has its way of doing it too, with the 613 commandments. Each one of those commandments is an opportunity or a way to try to connect with God. So whether it's lighting Shabbos candles, or whether it's putting on a tallis, or whether it's spending time in the sukkah, 3 different things that we're doing, totally different things that we're doing, but there are 3 different ways of being able to experience God's presence. 3 of 613 ways of experiencing God's presence. So that's the idea, is that the rabbis are trying in creating the system that we have, the religious system is to try to get close to God. The Jewish way to do that is by doing things. Physical activity is a way and can be transformed into a spiritual experience. We just have to try hard enough in order to do it. So now I think, I bless my children every Friday afternoon, whether they are physically with me or not. They call me, I FaceTime them, I bless them. So this past Friday, I was in Rhode Island, and so that's when my granddaughter was born. So blessing my son then was a little bit different of an experience than it normally is every other week, because something dramatic just took place. So it was a little bit more spiritual blessing my son last Friday than it was on a normal Friday, right? And that's my fault, because every Friday should be just as spiritual when I'm blessing my children. That's the point, that how difficult it is for doing these mitzvot to make them spiritual experiences, right? So we go through the routine of lighting Shabbos candles, spending time in the sukkah, but do we actually make it spiritual? Do we put in the effort to make it spiritual? So that's part one of perhaps why this is the section that's chosen for the Shabbat during Sukkot. So here we are. If it's 2,000 years ago, we're busy harvesting the fall harvest. We've spent a lot of time and effort in bringing in the harvest, making the trip to Jerusalem to bring some of it as an offering to God to celebrate the holiday. And are we making it spiritual? Are we asking the question that Moses is asking here? God, I've put in the work, and I would like this holiday to be special. Can you show me your presence? Can you show me that I have found favor in your eyes? So I think, for me, I think that's the question that we ask during Sukkot, during this holiday. Here, we have family together, we have friends together, we're eating in the sukkah. We have this beautiful sukkah that's behind Jules there, that his wife, may she rest in peace, is one of the dioramas that she made with her huge collection of dolls. Beautiful sukkah back there that kind of get us into the mood of this, what the holiday of Sukkot is. So we have history building the sukkah because we remember how the Israelites traveled through the desert 3,000 years ago. So history comes to life when we build the sukkah. We remember what it means in our family experiences that we've had in the sukkah or in synagogue sukkahs over the years. We're doing our part to try to observe the holiday, and we just have this question, this spiritual question. Please, God, let me know that it's worth it doing all of this. Just let's show me some kind of sign that I'm in your favor. And I think that's the spiritual question that we have, no matter what we do, no matter what time of year it is. It's, please God, this harvest that we've just celebrated, this New Year's season, we're in the third week of 4 weeks of holidays. It's a spiritually exhausting time. Please, God, reveal some of your presence to me to say, yes, I've been watching you, I've been listening to you, and you have found favor in my eyes. So I think for me, I think that's the reason, the spiritual reason why this is chosen for these days. Any thoughts or comments? Jules?
I remember talking about the Sukkot.
Yeah,
I remember how many years went by where we had members of the family come over, where we popped popcorn, where we hung up the boughs, where we took fruit and hung each individual piece
right,
in the sukkah.
right.
And what ended up, to me at least, was that we had a sincere remembrance of joy
Yeah,
and getting together with family. And that, in a way, in itself is a gift from God, because it can be seen that way.
right,
Because we're ending up with a feeling that you can't describe any other way.
right, right. I agree. I agree totally with what you're saying, right? All the things that we do to make the sukkah even that much more special, unique to us, to make it more joyful. Yeah, that's the whole idea. And I think the extra thing is that we want, because we're human, we want a little bit of gratitude or appreciation that that all this effort was appreciated by God. That it's not just appreciated by us and our family, that we're having a good time, that we fulfilled the mitzvah with friends and family in the sukkah. That's all wonderful and terrific and joyful, but ultimately, religiously, it would be nice to get a sign from heaven saying, yes, this is what I want, and I so much love your joy on Sukkot. Just yes, Lori.
Yeah, this relates more to the first part, but it's not unrelated at all, because I found the conversation between Moses and God to be very spiritually uplifting. You know, the chutzpah, the idea that Moses could pour his heart out and be such a great communicator, and that God would listen and shift.
Right.
And, you know, that partnership. So to me, that's a message. You can pour your heart out. You know.
Yeah, and so we do pour our heart out. We poured our hearts out on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. But here in the Torah, Moses gets an answer. So the question is, have we gotten an answer? So sometimes there are times when I pray that I feel like I'm being heard. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens sometimes. And so I think that's that experience. You know when it happens. Each of us knows when it happens if we feel as if God is listening. So that's what's recorded here in the Torah in this section, that at least it seems Moses is getting a response from God, and that he's being treated lovingly by God as well, taken care of, so that Moses can be blessed with seeing some aspect of God that no other human being has ever seen and will ever see. So that is something that we'll never achieve. But sometimes we can hope to get a sense that God is listening. And I can't describe it. You know it if you feel it, that God is listening. And that is enough to keep us going and keep doing the Jewish things that we do. All right, so we stop here for today. Moadim l'simcha, that's the greeting during the days of Sukkot. May the holiday be happy, and enjoy the rest of Sukkot.